What's going on, people? And welcome to another episode of Riley's Talk. More specifically, my 2 cents. This one should be called more so my nickel or my 5 cents, what have you, because I think I got a few more than just my 2 cents to give on this particular subject. But as always, before we get completely into it, do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe, and share button and the notification icon so you can get all the notifications of when I upload my next video. So, excuse me, let's get right into it. Yesterday, more specifically, actually, I think it was like late Wednesday night, Joe Biden signs an order. And in a nutshell, is that he signs an executive order. In a nutshell, what this executive order does, it gives transgenders pretty much the same rights and the same discrimination privileges or from discrimination privileges as all of us. That's a good thing to a degree. That is a good thing to a degree. But the hot button topic on the issue is how it affects women's sports and also the bathroom, also the locker room, and things of that nature. So what the bill in a nutshell says is this. Basically, if a school, a public school especially, is receiving any form of federal funding, they risk losing that funding if they do not abide by certain rules, regulations, what have you. So where this initially comes from is a law that was passed. It kind of was passed twice, back in the 60s and the 70s, called Title IX. The one specifically in the 70s, Title IX, it is what opened up the floodgates to a lot of women's sports, especially at the high school and college level. Basically, this is where you started seeing a lot of more women's basketball teams. This is where just women's sports started exploding because money started coming in. And basically, if you had a boys basketball team, you had to at least have the opportunity to offer one for girls if they wanted to play. So we all know that the funding is not 100% equal, kind of duh, because generally speaking, boys play sports more than girls. But since the 70s, a lot of women, girls, what have you, have gotten into sports. So over the past 10, 15 years or so, the LGBTQ community has been very vocal about they want to participate in these sports. Now, no one has ever said that because you're gay, bisexual, or trans that you cannot play sports. But here is where my 2 cents, and here's where the problem comes in at. It becomes the issue of biologically born males becoming female and then competing against other biologically born females. We have seen numerous cases of where this is just completely wrong and it's going to backfire because, let's just face it, biological boys are just naturally stronger, faster, what have you, than girls. There's not enough testosterone level testing, or there's not enough hormone therapy testing, what have you, to take away some of the advantages that males have. I can use myself as an example. So at my fastest in my life ever, probably if I was running a track and field, I probably was running about, at my fastest ever, probably about 11.5 seconds. I could run. Is that lightning fast? Hell no. Anybody that knows track and field knows that's not lightning fast. I wouldn't touch the first level of a top-notch boys high school team. So now the fastest woman in the world ever has run a 100-yard dash at about 10.49 seconds. That record still stands to this day by Florence Griffith Joyner in the 1988 Olympics. So that is her fastest time ever, and that's the fastest time ever run by a woman ever. Whereas on the men's side, Usain Bolt, his time in the 100-yard, the same distance race, is almost a full second faster than the fastest woman ever. Now, I know some people say, well, that's just only a second. In the sport of track and field, where you're only dealing with 0.1 of a second, losing to somebody by a full second is the equivalent of losing a basketball game by about 40 points. You got blown away. You just got completely blown away. Now, on top of that, take that fastest woman, and who at the time was a professional, she was paid to do what she was doing, what have you. There is top-notch boys in high school that eclipse the 11-second mark very easily. But 10.5 is very common amongst boys at the top-notch high school level. I say all this to say it's basically 17, 18-year-old boys at their fastest, especially if they're a really good athlete, will always beat the fastest woman ever to run. That's just kind of how it goes. So a lot of people are not feeling this whole letting biologically born males get into these playing fields with biologically born females. It's just not fair. We have numerous examples. It happened in Kentucky a couple of years. Excuse me, not Kentucky, Connecticut. So 2 transgender females who, I don't know if they even went through the hormone surgery or what have you. They just identified as female. I mean, they set all type of state records on the female side, but they weren't even close on the boys side. Now, we had another one. I think that person's name was Stacy or something like that. He initially was on the boys team in college. I mean, was barely making the team. Freshman and sophomore year. Junior year, went through the whole hormone surgery, what have you. By senior year, now he, I'm pretty sure y'all can understand why I say that. He became a she. Went from barely making the squad on the boys side to now a national champion. The best in the country, although it was Division III, whatever, but still a national champion. You don't see the problem with that? I do. Boys are just simply going to be better, more physically stronger. This doesn't make you transphobic. This doesn't make you anti-trans or anything. So a couple of more examples. Anybody remember Martina Navratilova? If you haven't never heard of it, back in the late 70s, all through the 80s, all the way up to the early 90s, she was the shit when it came to women's tennis. As of right now, this is who Serena, all the records she's breaking. She's breaking Martina's records. Martina was gay as gay could be. She made coming out fashionable in the late 70s, early 80s. Still was one of the big time gay pioneers of lesbian rights, what have you. So about a year ago, she spoke out against this whole concept of biological males competing against biological women, and she did not like it. This is not just somebody who's just talking here. This is, not like me. This is a woman who was at the top of the game of her profession. Wimbledon, US Open, French Open, Australia Open. She won them all. She still plays tennis to this day in her 60s. She came completely out against this, at least initially, until she was forced to apologize because they kicked her off some advisory group, what have you. She said, this is wrong. This is wrong. They're stronger than us. They're bigger than us. We cannot beat them on their same level. And she was kicked off. You have another situation where there's matter of fact, USA Weightlifting, I don't think it's USA, but some weightlifting company, this started a really big backlash where there was a trans woman, so born male, became female inside of weightlifting. Now, weightlifting is something that's nothing but pure upper body strength. So this particular trans individual initially got in, and was just dominating all the other women. And I'm talking about, if I don't even know the weights, but let's just say the strongest woman was lifting 220 pounds over her head. This individual came in lifting 40 and 50 pounds more. You're talking about a sport where 1 pound can make the difference between a gold medal or you not even placing. But you have to catch up somebody with 30 and 40 pounds. They particularly banned this trans person and said, if you want to compete, you have to compete against the biological males. We're not going to argue with you about this. And I think last time I heard, that case is still going through the court systems. Also, how this bill comes into effect is, especially at the youth level, locker rooms and bathrooms. So a trans male, I get them confused with the he and the she and the you and the her. You're not supposed to use these different type of pronouns and things of that nature. So excuse me if I have to pause for a second. But nowadays, I guess part of this bill is that a biologically born male, if he identifies as a she, can now begin to use the she's bathroom or the she's locker room. And this goes all the way down into the youth aspect. One thing that, let's get political for a second. One thing that a lot of people, conservatives and liberals, both try to do this. What about the children? So part of the reasoning they say that Biden signed this executive order was because it's not fair for, let's just say, an 8 or 9-year-old who feels like they're a female to still have to use the male bathroom or locker room, and it destroys their self-esteem. So basically, they should be able to use the locker room that they identify at. I'm quite sure we all can see the issue here. I have to watch what I say here. You know, I might get banned off Facebook, not Facebook, but off YouTube and Facebook, what have you. But I think we can all see the issue here of the problem that's going to come from this. Secondly, back to getting political about it, this is how Democrats or liberals can easily, bills like this, laws like this is how you can turn a Democrat or a liberal into a Republican or a conservative. Or with the past politics, this is how somebody could easily vote for Donald Trump. This person could be as progressive could be, but they have a line that they just stop. Okay, this is the line I'm not going to cross right here. You know, I don't have to be progressive on every issue, but then the progressive movement just keeps going. And that person that was a progressive just stops, and now they'll say, you know what? I don't care about all the other stuff that this group is talking about, the ones that I don't normally agree with, but today I agree with them, and I'm going to vote for them today. So this is where this is how it can become problematic. But generally speaking, yeah, I have an issue with this bill. I have a daughter as well, and before COVID, she was in gymnastics. Now, gymnastics definitely uses a lot of upper body strength. I cannot even imagine her trying to compete against a male on the floor exercise. Now, granted, they don't have to compete against each other. What I mean by that, they don't have to tussle or anything like that. They don't have to touch each other. But the male is going to be able to jump higher. They're going to be able to do that somersault a lot faster. Their bones are not as brittle. Male bones are not as brittle as females. And I'm not a scientist. I could be wrong on some things, and I'm sorry. But generally speaking, most men will recover from injury faster. And the biggest one, I don't care about hormone replacement. You can't take away lung capacity. That's one of the things that's been proven, that no matter what happens with overdoing the trans surgery, you can't take away lung capacity. Excuse me. Our hearts end up intaking more oxygen, which give us a lot more boost of energy. So we can all, in my opinion, see what's the potential problem here. I don't like this. I don't like this one. And I mean, they came straight in and just threw a hand grenade. Now, politically speaking, I guess I can understand why you did this one so fast, to get it out the way. Because now you're in office for 4 years, and I can assure you in 6 months to a year from now, it's going to be forgotten, at least amongst the masses. Now, I'll remember it because this is something about me having a daughter that I don't like. I do not want my daughter competing, especially for a college scholarship, against biological males. She's going to lose. She is going to lose. She's just not going to win unless she's going up against a guy that's completely garbage. Lastly, I'll say this too. What the trans community, in my opinion, I was trying to allude to this earlier. What the trans community does, in my opinion, a lot of times is they'll take an accomplishment made by a trans person or a biological female and make it a bigger accomplishment than what it actually is. So as I was saying earlier, at my fastest, I could probably run about 11 and a half seconds in a 100-meter yard dash. Nowadays, I forget her name. Excuse me again, gosh. I forget her name, but last name Jeter, I think. She is a USA track and field star. She has more gold medals than Usain Bolt on the women's side. At my fastest, this woman would smoke me. She would smoke me. Wouldn't be close. She would smoke me. I will probably be about a good half second behind her. She will always be able to run faster than me, what have you. But now, that's because I'm not a naturally born sprinter like that. So take her up against another natural born male sprinter and give them the same training levels. Let's say they both went to Division I college. Give them the same training levels. Give them the same training regimen. She would not beat that gentleman. She would not beat him. She would. I alluded to this earlier. She would have a hard time beating a lot of high school senior males. Lastly, a lot of people don't remember this. A couple of years ago, the U.S. women's soccer team, they had a warm-up match. Now, this is the multi-gold medal women's World Cup soccer team. You know, they had the whole thing about they should get paid more last year. That's another story. They had a warm-up match against, guess who? An under 15-year-old boys team. They lost. Some said, well, it was just, a friendly. They didn't want to embarrass it. Nah, they lost. Lost 5-2. I remember the game very well. A lot of people's like, what? How did that happen? Because now you're dealing with males who are either going through puberty, or puberty is almost over with for them. So they're grown men, they're adult. Testosterone and muscles have officially started showing up. So as you can see, this can become a problem. A lot of people are saying this is pretty much the elimination of girls' sports. Now, that's more of a gloom and doom aspect of it. But let's just say that there's going to be some women who lose out on trying to get a scholarship, on trying to get endorsements, what have you, because this naturally born male who became female is now overriding her. So that's my 2 cents on this subject. I don't like it. I'm not going to like it. And I don't care if you like it, I don't like it. So it is what it is right now. Hopefully somebody comes in and find a way to override this. I'm quite sure there's going to be a lot of lawsuits, a lot of states' rights issue that's going to bring it down and things of that nature. But overall, I don't like it. So as always, do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And as usual, thank you for listening to another episode of Riley's Talk. You all have a wonderful day.